All right. Okay, well, I'm glad to see your faces. I'm so proud of this place. I'll just call the roll call very nice and formally, and then you can say anything. Kind of try to channel Ku'ule. So, Linda,
Here.
excellent. Jeanette, okay. Gloria, I saw you click on.
Here.
Awesome. Are you safely driving?
Yes, I am.
Hands free?
Yes, I am.
Good job. And Sandra? Aloha. I saw the microphone clicked on and then it went, there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm here. I said I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay. All right. And then the mighty women of the best center in the whole country in the house. And a really cute meme along with them. So, do I have to do the public comment thing or first do the agenda thing?
Agenda thing first and then public
Okay,
comment.
so since we are with the speaker we had a urgent conflict, I need to make a motion to revise the agenda. So I move that we remove the kind, what was his name? Ben?
Dan Brinkman.
Ben from the agenda.
Dan, like Daniel.
And
Dan, like Daniel Brinkman.
oh, Daniel
Later.
Brinkman. Oh, okay. That's what I really move. That Daniel is taken off the agenda, so since he's not here. Can I have a second?
I second it's Gloria.
Mahalo. So you all know that the beautiful sunshine laws govern our proceedings. And though I don't believe we have any sneak listeners or people who have desired to testify, if you can't provide testimony, you are allowed to testify when any agenda items are called. So if Bree lets anyone in, we will warmly welcome them. For internet or phone access, when you testify, you have to identify yourself and your organization if you represent one. And every testifier will only get 5 minutes per agenda item. All written testimony is public. Therefore, any testimony submitted orally or in writing, electronically or in person for the use in the public meeting process is public information and will be posted on the board's website. So let that be known. And at that, I will kick it over to Laura.
Thank you. So thanks everybody for accommodating that agenda change at the last minute. We'll work with Dan Brinkman and his team to get that scheduled for another date. And then for strategic planning, I wanted to take a moment. We had a lot of the meetings. We confirmed what the strategic plan would be at our last meeting on April 16th. And I wanted to ask you all just for your insights and any reflection that you had related to our 3 priority areas, which we have here listed on the screen. Enhanced nursing education, which is to facilitate and contribute to innovations that strengthen the educational pipeline for professional nursing. Nursing professional development, to establish programs that transfer knowledge, skills, and abilities for the growth of nurses from novice to expert. I'm sorry, I have a lisp today. And leadership development, to cultivate future leaders who can connect with and effectively advocate for the nursing profession. Specifically, we went through the process with Erica Pono. We had our many focus groups, and thank you for being part of that process. We had a implementation planning day, which was on February 20th, where we met with our community partners, including many of you all, to talk about or to talk about what the critical success factors and the barriers are for each of these priority areas, and then imagine activities that we would implement and that would help us move towards meeting these goals. And then last meeting, we also shared with you, in addition, what our measures are. But we didn't have a lot of conversation about specifically with the board about your insights, your sense, your organization, like in your organizations, your professional associations, etc. How are you? Okay, one second. How are you imagining the future as it relates to these, or where are you identifying opportunities? So I wanted to give the opportunity to you all to discuss with us kind of your imagination and your insight, and give that opportunity as we work to bring these to reality. So with that, if you could just share your insights, your thoughts, I would appreciate that for myself, but also for the staff who are present, and to, we always reiterate what you say back down to those who are not with us.
Would you like the shared screen to go away, Laura, or would you like the text there so we can all be reminded as we go through it?
Maybe you can, sorry, maybe you can leave it on just for memory's sake, unless everybody thinks that it's a distraction.
Well, every time I see these, I like them better. It's kind of like there's a little sprout growing around these, and tonight I'm really looking at them and seeing how much they interrelate to one another as well. So, from the point of view of pre-licensure education, it's really, really clear that though we've met the old metrics well, we retain and graduate, and the students pass their boards and have been getting hired. There's a gap yet and still between preparation and practice that seems to be growing. So it just demands innovation in the pre-licensure arena, and demands a stronger collaboration with practice as they work on that professional development, going from novice to expert. So it seems, the center has been so influential in being able to support critical change points. And it seems like this is a time where there is a critical change required. And I'm just really excited that we are giving voice to it and pulling people together. So yeah, that. And plus I'm older and I really have been thinking quite a lot about succession planning. And that is what leadership development is. It's slow. It's like planting. You have to start you have to till the ground and amend it for what you want. And then you have to choose plants that are suited there. Like some things grow so great in my backyard, and some things just die no matter what I do to them. Some want to be there and some don't. So, I really appreciate this leadership development. There's so much need. So I just like these things better and better. I think the process really hit it on the head for these next couple of years. So mahalo.
Thank you, Anne. And I saw, Sandra, you got off your camera came on, so I was wondering if that meant you had words to share.
No, I just decided I didn't want to be the only one not on camera. But I think I agree with Anne. I think this is almost like a stepwise approach. I think this is like a ladder essentially in which like a novice nurse can start with enhanced nursing education, right? But even any nurse, right, and then it goes into professional development. And at some stage in your career, you think, do I need to, do I want to get into leadership, right? And then we start talking about leadership development. So I think, I like how they all kind of relate to each other, and kind of it's almost like a way to, like a stepwise approach, basically.
I'd like to make some comments about the leadership development part of this, if I may. In bringing Hawaii American Nurses Association back to Hawaii, my intent was to bring back the advocacy part of the association that used to be part of Hawaii Nurses Association with collective bargaining. And I was really feeling for 10 years there that we didn't have an organization that was doing advocacy for the profession, or at least the union was doing their thing with contracts and that sort of thing. And we've seen them enter into the legislative process now. And I've been working hard at trying to help them to develop the skills needed for entering into that process, which they really don't have the time or the expertise to do, other than to hire a lobbyist, which, is another way to go. But advocating for the nursing profession is part of the professional organization. And with Hawaii Nurses Association, we used to have 92% permeability. We had the highest rate of permeability, that is membership, in the country. Hawaii had that many members of Hawaii Nurses Association, which was again part of ANA. And we're a long way from that at this point. Even the unions don't represent more than maybe 30% of the nurses now. So trying to connect nurses with advocacy and policy development is a really important thing that the center is doing, and that the association, American Nurses Association, is working on with you.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate those comments.
Hey, this is Gloria. When I see all of this, and I gotta take a few leaps backwards, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but when it comes from, I guess, an Indigenous Hawaiian Native perspective, when I look at this, for me, it's those elements that within culture, you get your education first, but I think we also understand as nurses is that education does not occur in only one place, one location, one setting. That education is a two-way street. We learn from the people we serve. We learn from our community members. We learn from textbooks. We learn by participating. And that which makes a community and broadens the scope on how we learn. And then when we look at the professional development, the transfer of knowledge, skills, and abilities, so that for the growth of nurses from novice to expert. I kind of associate this with the feeding, hand to mouth to mouth feeding, from the Indigenous perspective on how we interact with each other. that we pass on these knowledge and skills and abilities, but they don't all come from formal education. It comes from the experience working within communities. It comes from experience in working with populations. Those skills that are basically the skills that are defined by rules and regulations, but also other skills, the more compassionate skills, those that help us to engage and meet people where they're at. And so for me, that's part of, professional development, is that if we cannot engage, then how do we meet people where they're at and be able to meet their needs? And for me, last one, the leadership development circles back to the beginning again, and how we go through the cycles now that we have grown leaders and stuff like that. But what are the innovative, what education is needed now to continue the profession of nursing? How has it changed? What do we need to instill? How do we need to, how do we get innovations out of nursing so that we can continue to keep people interested in the profession? And so for me, it's like a cyclic thing, but I also take it from a Native Hawaiian perspective, is that the investment of time, place, energy to be able to provide and interact with people that have these commonalities between them. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
That's the cornerstone of a class right there, what you just said. That's like the opening introduction of a class that learners at all levels need to hear and explore.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gloria. And it makes me think how we're currently working on can't really see it, but we're working on the formal documentation, and it makes me think about how we also want to display that. The priorities, both from what Sandra said and also from Gloria, how you described it. How do we want to portray that visually so we can conceptualize that as nurses and as a broader community that receives our work, or that collaborates with our work, or that informs our work, etc. Carrie has a question mark on her face.
Was that a question, boss?
No, yeah, I'm
Okay,
kind of
okay.
articulating it out loud, like how do we want to how do we want to present it? Because currently it's in a list form, and maybe that presentation may not be the presentation that best serves the priorities as it's meant to impact our community. Suggestions welcome. Any other comments on this? As it goes, if you're not a on the cuff reflector, I'm not. If you have thoughts, please do share them. I'm also really good with musing, so if you want to dictate into your phone and text it over, I'll do my best to interpret. Everybody knows that's how I communicate these days. Spelling can be wild, but the intentions are transferred. So I'm more than happy to continue to receive the feedback, and we'll pass it on to the staff so we can reflect and respond and incorporate that into our work.
I also want to say that the last two conferences that you guys put together, the data one and the I don't know, the residency one is much bigger than that. It was what this vision is to residency, was what that conference was. So I think already you are putting some stakes in the ground that are super helpful towards these efforts. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Someone mentioned that as well. They said having an opportunity to convene together at these conferences that we're putting on, which I don't do conference planning. This is the team. I take no credit. I show up, but it's because the focus has been on this high level of nursing professionalism and collegiality. It's transferring of knowledge across between each other, and then committing to that vision together. They have felt like it's really helpful to reform partnerships and friendships within the profession, as also to have that lived experience of being a highly professional nurse, which from the day to day, sometimes you don't know how to put a frame around your day to day, but when you get pulled out into these experiences, it helps do that. Well, with that, we can move on to the next section, which is a whole bunch of highlights about what we've been doing that I wanted to share with you all. So if I can have permission to move through that. One, I want to highlight Carrie. I don't know where she is on your screen, so I'll just point randomly. She was one of the co-authors, and she's done this a couple times with between the National Forum of State Nursing Workforce Centers that kind of interprets and responds to the data, and then NCSBN, who does who fields the survey and does the analysis. And this has been a really nice document in reflection of the state work. And also I'll highlight this year that normally the data request goes through the Board of Nursing, but the Board of Nursing did not respond to that data request this year. And Carrie, not one to leave Hawaii off the map, gave them her data and it ended up being a great source of data for them. I think they also remarked on the high quality of that data as well. So did a lot of things. Carrie's not going to be on the next workforce the national sample survey project because she's doing kind of like all these other side analyses with them. In your agenda, you'll have the link to the full article, and it is open source. This is one of the few articles on the Journal of Nursing Regulation that is free, but also the Center for Nursing does have a subscription. So if there's other articles that you're interested in or those sub-analyses, we can share them. So congrats, Carrie, for that work and also that visibility that you gave to us and the National Forum as well. Next up is license, and Carrie, you can give this update if you want, because I pulled up the wrong document.
Oh.
Well,
We
counts up.
We are in the middle of fielding our nursing workforce supply survey for 2025. I didn't update the count since this afternoon, but at the earlier today around noon, we had 8,600 surveys that had been collected in SurveyMonkey, which is a little bit behind where we were last year by about 300 or so surveys. That's an improvement. At the beginning of the fielding period, we were running about 700 or 500 surveys behind 2023. So we're catching up. So we're not having any kind of fielding problems this year. We haven't gotten any kind of weird feedback. So that's thanks to PVL for making that survey link available. And for everybody who is renewing their license, they get access to it either before or after. And if you know a nurse who hasn't done their survey yet and they've already renewed their license, they can still take the survey. If they need the link, I'm happy to provide it, but they should be able to access it in their My PVL. So it's going well.
I just want to add to that just a little bit of the license counts overall. And Carrie, every time the GEO reports, which is where the total license numbers are reported through DCCA for all license types, she updates a screen she updates a document for LPNs, RNs, and APRNs. We had a wild 2 years in terms of licensing. So despite the fact that we have had essentially emergency proclamations waiving nurse licensure requirements in our state since 2020, I think we had a 2-month break between the end of the COVID emergency proclamations and the start of the Lahaina proclamations. We have had like 16,000 extra people get licensed in our state. And I think the obvious reason why is the very, what is the right word? Very many hospitals are going through nursing negotiations. Let's just count the numbers. We are still in this phase. We have another 4 hospitals that will be doing contracting and negotiations moving forward. And then HHSC, we don't actually hear about often because they don't have the option to strike in their contract. But then those, of course, are in the mix as well. We just don't hear about them as much because they're not subject to striking. And I mention that because that specific scenario has resulted in many people being recruited from the mainland to be available should there be work stoppages, or to prevent the stoppages of services when there is that transference between union labor and travelers. So it's interesting that we're still having a lot of, I say, a pretty good response rate on the survey. I think it's great. I mean, it still exceeds what we were doing in the mid-teens at this point. Our overall supply response rate is really good compared to kind of our historical numbers. And I'll also expect the license survey numbers doesn't reflect the total number of people who are renewing. We know that some people will not take the survey. We respect them. That's fine. And it will be interesting to see what that ends up being. So how many people renew when we know that there's this large number of people who have been recruited to get licenses in the state to respond to various and sundry workforce issues. So it will be an interesting thing to kind of triangulate all that data moving forward. A lot of unknowns in this period because we're in this fielding and license renewal process, and we'll have some kind of exciting and fun news in September. I find it exciting, and
I
hope
also find
that
it
will be
exciting.
fun. It may not be fun, but it certainly will be exciting. Yeah, so there's a couple different things that we can kind of learn through this, not just about nurses in the survey, but it also kind of tells us how many people are getting renewing their license, etc. All right, next update. We're moving along.
I slipped this slide in there so that we could
Woohoo!
all recognize that Laura recently had her commencement ceremony on May 21st for the Omidyar Fellowship. From what I understand, it's not quite done, but kind of done. Anyway, big congratulations. It's a huge, huge undertaking and a huge honor, and we're really glad that she had the opportunity to go and learn all of those things because it benefits us.
Yeah, and I'm still working on consolidating everything I learned to bring back. And Sandra's there. Thanks so much for being there. I really appreciated you being there. And Anne tried getting there, but there were no flights back from Oahu to Maui, so she couldn't get stuck away from home. But thank you guys for your support on this journey. And I shared on the second to last day of the fellowship part, we were asked to kind of give some closing thoughts. And I recognized the great amount of work that the team does so that, all of us who go through this fellowship are able to show up to the fellowship. So I want to thank you all for creating that space and opportunity over the past 9 months. And as Bree alluded to, and different from Sandra's experience when she was in the fellowship, they created a practicum for us. So we will have 3 more months of work together. We don't know what that means, but we are excited to spend time with each other. And then for me, the work to kind of contextualize what I learned and put it into process. Some things is already in play, specifically to the workforce supply survey. I came back with these like data insights, and Carrie was like, oh, I can do that. So Carrie's already adapted a bit. Sorry for the noise behind me. And I wonder if Sandra, if you have anything to say too, because you're kind of further along in this process than I am, on what the opportunities are for nursing to have nurses in the Omidyar Fellowship community.
Yeah, I remember the first time I decided to apply was there was a nurse at a conference saying that we as nurses don't take the time to develop ourselves. And so she had mentioned that it's a good opportunity to apply for the Mid-ER Fellows and Pacific Century Fellows, Patsy Mink Fellowship, which is specifically geared towards women and stuff. And it's something that I've encouraged my staff to do. But I think this just growth within yourself is an important step to take. And the thing I love about the being in the fellows is it's a commitment, it's a lifelong commitment. So there's opportunities to learn and grow, and that fellowship, I think that sometimes we miss, especially being either at the bedside or being in leadership, which can all be very lonely. And it allows us to come together with other people. And then you and I, and then the other people who are in health can align together, right, to do projects that could possibly be funded by the fellowship. And so there's a lot of opportunities there too.
Applications are open, so they will have another cohort. The applications start June 2nd. And we can send them out. So that is an exciting opportunity that will continue forward as well. Yeah. All right, next up. And thank you guys for, again, very deeply, thank you for your support. And to that note, the accolades don't stop, because the National Forum of Nursing Workforce Centers is going to name, I don't know if I'm allowed to make this public announcement before the conference, but here we are, we're doing it. The Center for Nursing will receive the national recognition as the Center of the Year by the National Forum of State Nursing Workforce Centers. So I don't think I can stop commending the team and the community, but particularly the team enough. And having that recognition close and far is something that I feel like each of the members of the Center for Nursing deserve, and they should be seen for. And I'm really glad that the forum agreed. So that will be an honor that we will receive. Gloria, Carrie, you and I will be at that conference in Philly next week, and that will be something that we will be able to bring back with us. So round of applause for Carrie and Bree, who are with us today, but also Donnie, Amy, Catherine, Leanne, and Chelsea, who just recently left us, but because her GA ended, but still part of the team. Okay, next, we're just moving along. The board leadership election. So this is a really big year, and we'll see coming up another announcement. But so we are coming up on board terms. So Gloria and is our returning board member, who is our vice chair. And this is actually her last official meeting, and she's the chair. So over the summer, we're going to have to think about who would like to be in the board leadership position. And then we'll do those elections at the beginning of the meeting at our first formal meeting at the start of the next fiscal year. You can talk to Anne and Gloria. We try not to make life too hard for you if you're a board chair. I think all you can recognize that we both try to take, this past year, we've taken more of your time with the strategic planning, but we don't try to take too much of your time. We try to very much appreciate your insight and receive it in any way that you can provide it to us. And then also as a board chair and vice chair, it's largely supporting the meetings that we have, but all personnel and budgeting and governance, all of that is handled through the University of Hawaii. So it does not become a governance position. I think that's one clarification I'd like to make sure everybody hears. So it doesn't become governance, but of course, when there is insight and opportunity for supporting the center, we do ask, we do ask for your input. So if you're interested, can you let Bree or myself know? And if you have questions about the experience, you can get a candid answer from Anne and Gloria, and otherwise we'll do the best that we can to give you, of course, an honest answer, but also as much information as you need.
You'll receive a solicitation email from us, which also will include the an outline of what the role is and what the expectations are, which Laura just summarized, but you will get an email from us officially for you to respond to in case you are interested.
Next up is we have, it's state ethics. One second, honey. Yes, go for it. It's state ethics. We always have to update our state ethics. By law, you all are advisory committee, not governance. And because you're not governance, you're not required by law to do the state ethics. It is never a bad idea to learn some ethics training. I don't know if you know, but our state sometimes has troubles with ethics. And nurses, we are a great profession. We are highly trusted, but that's because we like learn what the rules are and we live within them. So please, it's an optional training. It's easy. It's not hard work, but it is always nice to get an update, and the links are available for you.
Make sure that everybody has all of the links as well. So, and I know you've gone through it. It is only a requirement for University of Hawaii employees. So if you're not an employee, it's not a requirement, but if you happen to be an employee and sit on a board, it is a requirement. So, and did you find it to be horrendous or pretty quick and meaningful?
It's great. Just put it in the long line of competencies that you're required to prove you do. And there's always a nugget. Jeanette, you probably had to do it too. It's good. I mean, as teachers, we actually teach it. So a teacher is paid to learn. So this is just one of the ways that helps you keep that up.
Okay. So our strategic planning luncheon, normally, this is not the big strategic planning, but normally we have one in-person meeting. Last year we had it at Howtree. We probably will never be able to get it there again. I'm sorry. That was hard. That was a hard paperwork process to go through. But we do have our annual meeting, or one time a year that we've come together as a board. There was some conversations in the staff. We're also having our 20th anniversary party. It's a lunch. We're going to be having that during a weekday in September. So there's two thoughts. One is, do we scrap our what we call a strategic planning meeting, which this year would have a little bit of professional development and a time to convene, because we'll also be having the 20th anniversary meeting, which you all will be invited to, even if you're coming off the board. Or would you like to have both? So I wanted to pose that question to you all so we can go forward with that planning that we will be starting shortly, because it does take a couple months to plan in-person events. Do you have a preference? And the question is both or one. And the one would be the 20th anniversary meeting in lieu of the strategic planning in-person meeting.
My preference would be for one being the 20th anniversary one, and Hawaii ANA's annual meeting is September 27th. So that would knock out one Saturday if we were going to do a weekend strategic planning luncheon again.
Thanks for providing that conflict as well. Any other thoughts? 2 meetings or one? Quiet group. Okay. If you have any other thoughts, let Bree know, and we will take that into consideration. Thank you. If I'm moving too fast and you wanted to comment, please chime in. Okay. Now, Chelsea and Chelsea, and her last name is Boucher Hebert, and I kept on practicing it, and I was not. Uh, I still am practicing it, even though she's not part of us. She came as a GA for our nurse residency program opioid grant. She started in February 2024, and she is just like the beacon of hope for the future. She's highly professional. She's really engaged. She provides really nice input. She'll tell you no, like she'll be like, nah, that's a bad idea, which is so refreshing. But she'll also find really great future opportunities, collaborations. She's good at finding solutions. And that's kind of my favorite attribute with our team, is that like nobody comes with problems, they come with solutions, right? They've moved past the problem phase, and she definitely embodied that. She became a nurse in October of 2024 because she's a Gepin student. And so she's going to be taking a gap year to explore what it is to be a nurse. She was a wonderful colleague. I think a lot of people who were able to interact with her appreciated her contribution. So I just want to mahalo Chelsea, and she will be missed. But she promised to give us her personal email so we could still go out, and we will be taking her out for lunch as a mahalo. But not in a hui ho. We will be keeping her close and as a colleague as she moves forward. Okay, and then our next and last, and we've alluded to this a couple times, 3 of our board members, 2 of them are unable to be here today, are terming out, which means it's been 8 years. Holy moly. So I just want to mahalo Anne, Rose, and Arthur. They are really wonderful champions for their segments of nursing, for you all as each other as board members. It's wild to think it's been 8 years. Arthur has threatened to retire for about 4 years, but somehow he made it a full 8 years. Jeanette, you know this, right? He like every year he's like, well, I'm retiring, so I can't promise. And then like 2 months later, he convinces you to do more things with him. And same thing, not the retirement part, but the cajoling into more work. And Rose has been really instrumental in kind of like culling resources and ideas and kind of like distilling them into like usable thoughts that move forward. So she's been really, really wonderful. She's also engaged the staff in different ways. Carrie works really closely with her in Queens's the Research Institute, the Queen Emma Nursing Research Institute. So I really want to commend them all. Anne, you, and then also Rose and Arthur for the wonderful contributions that you've made to us and to the state and to nursing. And with that, I don't know if you know, but I think the work with Anne will be continuing because she got authorization to do the work to change UH Maui College nursing associate degree into a bachelor's program. So the opportunity to collaborate doesn't end with the advisory board term.
No, I've been telling everybody, it takes a village. I'm one noisy villager, but there is no way, there's just so many blind spots that I have, obviously, and there's like 1 or 2 things I can do at the same moment. So many people. I even tried to pawn some work off on you, Jeanette, today. Because I sent you a long RC mail because I just, when you work on something so long, you see what you think you see. And it takes another whole set of eyes to really see. And it's such a critical junction, not just for Maui College, I think for nursing education, for nursing. So I feel so blessed to have met all the people who have helped me and challenged me, and like this center has been just absolutely such a beacon of motivation and information and passion. It's just been really, really great. So mahalo.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
You will be so missed. Rose and Arthur will be equally missed. It's heartbreaking to us. We're happy to welcome new members that are in the pipeline, but yeah, we've been really lucky to have you on board with us for so long.
I'm not going to miss you because I'm going to continue to annoy you about various and sundry things. So
Here, here.
Likewise,
Same,
my
same.
dear. Likewise, my dears. I already know where you live.
All right, well, we have made it to the top of the agenda, bottom of the agenda, but we're not at the top of the hour. We finished quite early, but I don't think anybody's mad about that. So if anything comes up, at least my email, Carrie's email, or I'm sorry, Cell's, Carrie's, mine, and Bree's are on our cell phone. We are always available when you have ideas, and we'll always try to figure it out. So thank you so much for being our advisory board members and helping us move our initiatives forward. Thank you all.
All right, aloha.
Aloha, everyone. We'll see you soon. And expect to get emails from us about recruitment into leadership positions.
Yeah. And I'm not super great at like goodbyes, but I just want to do like a big round of applause for Anne since she's the one like, yeah.
Oh, you got, I feel lucky. I feel like I'm the lucky one. But you know what I was thinking tonight, Gloria? I don't think I've heard enough from your heart. I thought to myself, maybe she could teach a class for us. So I'm not going to overstep my bounds, but I hope you wouldn't mind if I connect with you a bit here and there.
Yeah.
Of course, I still want to remain in contact with you and talk with you. Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll see the power of the center.
All right.
Mhm.
Gonna bust things wide open on your wake. We're surfing with you. All right. Aloha.
Aloha.
Bye.
Thank you. Ahui ho.
Bye. Ahui ho.